Here's a quick introduction to the core features of Palette, but before we get started, it's important to know how and why Palette came to be. Palette was made to improve how we interact with technology. In particular, creatives can find themselves frustrated with the apps that enable them. And this isn't a problem with the capabilities of these apps, but rather that our interaction with them doesn't always feel natural. Now, we believe that one-size-fits-all controls like the keyboard and mouse are inherently limited. Palette was made to offer a faster and more precise editing experience by using modular, tactile controls, assigning them to the key functions in the apps that we depend on. Following our launch on Kickstarter, we've been busy adding and improving our app support. The spotlight is currently on Lightroom, Photoshop, and Premiere Pro, but Palette can be used with nearly any software. We'll circle back to this later. For now, if you haven't already, now is a great time to go to palegear.com/start and download the latest version of the Palette app. Here I have the Palette app running and my kit connected. When connecting your kit, use the included USB cable found in the box next to the sliders. Connect directly to a USB port on your computer. Avoid using a hub whenever possible. When I start up a new Lightroom profile by clicking on the icon, you'll see an outline of my kit. Let's add one more module, and you'll see the app update in real time. Once we've assigned these modules, you'll also notice that they remember their functions as we move them around. Remember to connect the modules pin to pad, and you'll know they're connected properly when they light up. Since Lightroom is up and running in the background, I see the message connected at the lower right. If you see disconnected instead, click on it and it will take you through some steps to re-establish your connection. Once all Palette modules are connected, you're ready to start adding profiles. First, let's load in a Quick Start profile. Click the icon at the bottom center to show the Quick Start menu, then choose your first profile. Click on the plus sign at the right to load a second profile in a new tab. You can see that these two profiles are made for separate stages of my Lightroom workflow. First, quick development, and second, fine-tuning. Now, I'm about to show you the single most powerful tool for using Palette in a complex workflow, and it's called profile switching. This button in red right here is left blank to allow for profile switching. I select the button, and I assign it to Next Profile. Now, as I move between these steps when editing, I don't have to leave Lightroom or move away from my Palette kit. I simply press the button, and I have a whole new set of controls. And even when the Palette app is in the background, I can still switch back and forth. And now you can see at the bottom right of the screen, and on the Palette display here, it's telling me the name of the active profile. Next, let's create a new profile from scratch. Let's make this an editing profile for Photoshop, and I'm going to show you a few ways to assign your modules. We're going to grab the top slider here and assign it to opacity. Now we can scroll through the list and pick functions from inside their group, or we can search for them directly. After I grab the opacity function, I'll give it a custom color from the list at the lower left. We're going to leave the second slider alone for now, we'll come back to it. And let's assign one of our dials to brush size. For the button, I want to do something a little different, and this is a great opportunity to show you how to make custom functions for any app using dials or buttons. First, we're going to select keyboard mode from the left side. Second, we're going to enter our keyboard shortcut, in this case Shift-J, and this button is going to cycle between all our healing tools. Third, we're going to give the custom function a name and a color. Okay, now that we have that set up, remember that second slider from before? I'm going to show you how to use it for media mode. I listen to music personally to keep me energized while editing, so I'll use the slider to control master volume. First, I select media mode from the left side and choose volume. Even though Photoshop is the focused app, Palette will directly address the system volume whenever I move this slider. Next, we're going to give our profile a name. And there are two ways to do this. We can either click on the core module from inside the profile, or we can double-click on the Profile tab. Now finally, let's look at how Palette behaves when moving between multiple apps. As I cycle between Photoshop and Lightroom, it switches to a corresponding profile automatically. When I use my profile switching button, it switches only between profiles for the focused app. So far, we've seen how to load profiles and how to create our own. Now let me show you how to customize each control to fine-tune its response. Now these advanced controls are called range and sensitivity, and they're available in many of our integrations, the Adobe apps, and keyboard mode. I like to use range with sliders to make very precise adjustments. Let me show you, using the crop angle tool, how precise it can be when I set it to a narrow range. So first we're going to select the module, expand the advanced menu, and you can see we have a default range of 90 degrees, which is way too coarse. So now we're going to go to plus minus only 2 degrees. And you might use this for straightening your horizons in landscape photography, for example. Now when we switch back to Lightroom, you'll see just how precise and how intuitive it is to use a slider with a narrow range to adjust your crop angle. Let go, and it saves the adjustment. As I go back to the Palette app, I'm going to select my develop profile and change the sensitivity of basic exposure on this dial to the right. Once again, I expand the advanced menu, and you'll find that the default sensitivity is at the absolute top. Now this is probably way more sensitive than we want. We don't want to zip back and forth between plus minus 5 stops. We want to be able to fine-tune within tenths, hundredths of a stop at a time. So I know from experience I want to bring it back to right about here, where it's going to balance speed of adjustment and precision. I select Done and switch back to Lightroom. And you can see the adjustment is very smooth, very precise, yet still allows me a decent range without turning too much. If I take the adjustment too far, I simply press the dial to return to 0. We've come to the final part of this walkthrough. Now, I mentioned at the start that Palette can be used with nearly any software, and the easiest way to accomplish that is using keyboard mode. Keyboard mode allows you to bind a Palette profile to any open app on your machine, using dials and buttons to control that app via keyboard shortcuts. And here's how it works. So first, we're going to select Keyboard from the Palette app grid. And second, a window comes up asking us to bind this profile to an open app. We're going to choose Safari, which I conveniently have running in the background. Now we'll map some controls. So let's grab a button and assign it to New Tab. Make sure, of course, to set a name and a custom color for this control. Second, let's grab a dial. And this dial can support 3 keyboard shortcuts. One for left turn, one for right turn, and one for dial press. So with this dial, we're going to set it to cycle back and forth between tabs, and to close the selected tab when pressed. That sensitivity control we just looked at in the last section, it's at the bottom. And once again, remember to set a color and a name. With keyboard mode, you always want to set a custom name, otherwise you'll be seeing your keyboard shortcuts every time you look at the control. Let's give it a try. As we turn the dial, it navigates between tabs. The button that we assigned creates a new tab, and I press the dial to close it. What about the sliders, though? Is what I hear you ask. Well, the bad news is that they don't send keyboard shortcuts. The good news, however, is that they can still access media mode, so you can control your system volume from any profile. And those of you that have Macs or Windows laptops and all-in-ones, you can even control the brightness of your main screen using a slider too. Well, this concludes our video on getting started with Palette. If you have any more questions, we've linked plenty of resources in the description below. I would encourage you to take a look at RC's video on profile switching, as well as our community profiles and our community blog. And these will give you a great idea of how others have successfully integrated Palette into their workflow. Besides that, please feel free to email the team at support@palletgear.com. We're here to help you get set up. And thank you for watching.